This is possibly one of the most terrifying stories of disasters that occurred in the mountains. The highest mountain on Earth, Mount Everest, is at the top of many mountaineers' bucket list. While it's not always one of the most technical mountains to climb, it may also be one of the most dangerous. This tale demonstrates how harsh the mountains can be. For the detailed story about the 1996 Everest disaster, stay tuned and watch the video until the very end. For more interesting videos like this, subscribe to our channel, Adventure Uncovered. And also, don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified whenever new videos are posted. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. 1996 was one of the deadliest years for climbers on Everest, with 15 fatalities, 8 of which occurred on May 10th. 33 climbers from 3 groups, Mountain Madness, a Taiwanese organization with government funding, and adventure consultants, were making the ascent on this day. On May 10th to 11th of 1996, 8 climbers perished on Mount Everest while attempting to descend from the peak after being stuck in a blizzard. This incident is known as the 1996 Mount Everest Disaster. 12 climbers lost their lives trying to reach the summit during the entire season, making it the deadliest on Mount Everest at the time and the 3rd deadliest after the 16 fatalities from the 2014 Mount Everest avalanche. In addition, there were also 22 fatalities from avalanches brought on by April 2015 earthquake in Nepal. Widespread media coverage of the 1996 catastrophe led to concerns about Everest's commercialization. By the time the crew arrived at the balcony, the fixed ropes had not been installed by the climbing Sherpas and guides, which took about an hour. The climbers were once again forced to wait an hour while the guides set up the ropes at the Hillary Step when they discovered that no fixed line had been laid. There was a bottleneck at the one fixed line at the Hillary Step due to the fact that 33 climbers attempted the summit on the same day, and Hall and Fisher urged the climbers to keep a distance of no more than 150 meters between one another. Because of the delays, Hutchison, Kasishk, and Tusk decided to head back towards Camp 4. They were concerned that they would soon run out of supplemental oxygen. The first person to reach the summit was Mountain Madness team member Anatoly Balkriv. At 2:30, Balkriv started his descent to Camp 4 after spending over an hour and a half helping others reach the peak or an area nearby. Martin Adams and Clev Schoening, clients of the Mountain Madness, had arrived at the summit by that point, along with Hall, Krakauer, Harris, Badelman, Namba, and the 8 other Mountain Madness clients. Krakauer observed that the weather after this point did not appear to be as cooperative. They started descending at about 5 p.m. Ang Dorj told Doug Hansen to go down when he came across him on the way down, just above the Hillary Step. While shaking his head and pointing up towards the peak, Hansen did not react vocally. As soon as Hall arrived on the scene, the Sherpas volunteered to take Hansen to the summit, but Hall instead sent them down to help the other customers and gave them instructions to hide oxygen cylinders along the path. Hansen was running low on supplemental oxygen, so Hall stated that he would stay to assist. Around 3:45 p.m., Scott Fisher finally reached the top. He was worn out from the climb and getting sicker and sicker. Even later climbers like Doug Hansen and Mikhail Lugao made it to the summit. Around 5 p.m., according to Balkriv, he arrived at Camp 4. Balkriv's decision to descend before his clients are being questioned. Balkriv said that he wanted to be prepared to help the suffering clients who were further down the slope, and, if required, to get hot tea and more oxygen. Supporters of Balkriv, including co-author G. Weston DeWalt of The Climb, assert that the use of bottled oxygen creates a false sense of security. Without bottled oxygen, Balkriv was unable to actively assist his clients in their descent, according to Krakauer and his followers. Balkriv also claimed that he was going down with client Martin Adams, but eventually descended more quickly and left Adams behind. The descending team members started having trouble as the weather got harsher. The cruiser's track back to Camp 4, which they had broken on the ascent, was being destroyed by the blizzard on the southwest face of Everest, which was also obscuring visibility and burying the fixed ropes. Before we move on, for more interesting content like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Also, hit that bell icon to receive notifications whenever we post a new video. Fisher was aided by Lobsang Zhangbu Sherpa, but the storm prevented him from going beyond the balcony. When Makalu Gao was no longer able to move further, the Sherpas left Makalu Gao with Fisher and Lobsang. Ultimately, Fisher convinced Lobsang to leave Gao and him and descend. Hansen had lost consciousness, but was still alive, according to Hall, who radioed for assistance. At 5:30 p.m., Adventure Consultants leader Andy Harris started ascending alone from the south summit towards Hansen and Hall at the top of Hillary Step. During the storm, a number of climbers were disorientated on the south col. They huddled around 20 meters from Kangshung face drop-off with Mountain Madness guide Badelman and the clients Clev Schoening, Fox, Madsen, Pittman, and Gamelgard, as well as adventure consultant guide Mike Groom and clients Beck Weathers and Yasuko Namba. In search for assistance, Badelman, Groom, Schoening, and Gamelgard started to yell out for the rescuers, but Madsen and Fox stayed on the mountain with the group. After finding the climbers, Balqueve rescued Pittman, Fox, and Madsen. Pittman, Fox, and Madsen were given priority over Namba, who appeared to be near death. Balqueve did not notice Weathers. Hall radioed base camp at 4:43 a.m. on May 11th to let them know that he was on the south summit, proving that he had made it through the night. Hansen, who had been with him since the previous afternoon, was suddenly gone, and Harris was not present, according to the word that Harris had reached the two men. Due to his regulator being too clogged with ice, Hall was unable to breathe oxygen from a bottle. By 9 a.m., Hall had fitted his oxygen mask but noted that navigating the fixed ropes was challenging due to his frostbitten hands and feet. Later that day, he radioed base camp and asked them to use the satellite phone to call his pregnant wife, Jan Arnold. In their final conversation, they decided on a name for their unborn child. He assured her that he was generally at ease. He died shortly after in his sleep from being frozen to death. Ed Weisters and other mountaineers discovered his body on May 23rd. However, his wife asked that it be left there since she believed he was where he'd like to have stayed. But they did give her her wedding band back. Doug Hansen and Andy Harris's remains were never discovered. A second search for Weathers and Namba was started in the meantime by Stuart Hutchison, a client on Hall's team who had left before the summit on May 10th. He discovered two individuals who were severely frostbitten, barely responsive, and unable to move. The other survivors soon concurred that leaving Weathers and Namba behind was the only option when he decided that they could not be saved by the hypoxia survivors in Camp 4 or evacuated in time. Krakauer found out that he was still alive as the Camp 4 survivors prepared to leave. Weathers discovered that despite his deteriorating health, he could still move primarily on his own. In an effort to get Weathers down the mountain alive, a rescue squad formed. During the course of the next 2 days, 8 fit climbers from different trips helped Weathers descend to Camp 2 before being rescued by a high-altitude aircraft. His nose, right hand, half of his right forearm, and all of the fingers on his left hand were all frostbitten. But he eventually lived and made a full recovery. On May 11th, the climbing Sherpas discovered Fisher and Gao, but because of Fisher's worsening condition, they could only provide palliative care before rescuing Gao. Fisher's frozen body was discovered at around 7 p.m. by Bao Creve, despite his subsequent rescue attempt. Gao also survived and was airlifted off of the scene by a chopper. And that will be all for today's video. If you like this video, then please give us a big thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to receive notifications. Also, express your valuable thoughts in the comment section below. Feel free to spend some time watching other videos on our channel, but until then, goodbye.